Good day, everyone. Welcome back for day 2 of our kayaking journey. Although we did take our journey in one day, we did split it up because the tide was going out, and we came home for luncheon, and then we took a break and headed back out. So here the tide is just beginning to come back in, but there's enough water for us to get into all the little creeks and causeways that we like to get into. And we're really on the hunt to see many snowy egrets. Now here you can see a man-made structure for osprey to nest. We have many of these, probably about 20 around the area, because the osprey come here and nest. Sadly, the osprey have already headed down south to the Carolinas and into Florida. But in the all through the summer, we watch them fish, and even out front, out my studio window, I'll see them catch large fish and carry them off here to feed their offspring. So here you can see how the little narrow causeways between little islands and other little inlets, and the tide was deep enough for us to just get back in. And we'd even switch kayaks. I'm in my fast little green one, and hubby is in the yellow one I used in my prior video. But now I wasn't able to get video of myself, but I do, as always, wear a hat. But when I kayak, I always wear my big straw hat, and my sister-in-law always says I look like a Victorian lady from behind. But I couldn't get a video of myself, but I did catch my shadow, so I thought maybe you could enjoy that. So we were able to make it back to the pines where the egrets nest. If you can see the white splashes against the dark green of the scrub pines, those are all the snowy egrets going up to roost high up in the trees for the evening. And one of the main reasons my sister-in-law had come down was to make sure she could get some photographs of them before they head back, because this is about the time they always head back to the Carolinas and to Florida. But we always laugh. It feels a bit like the Everglades here when you're looking up into the trees with the big snowy egrets or herons in. Now, another funny bird are the sandpipers. And so here they were having their evening feed with their long nail-like beaks. They always make me laugh. And as the sun was setting, we were winding our way deeper into the little canals and inlets, and the sparkle on the sea was really lovely. And we found more of the scrub pines holding the snowy egrets, feeling a bit like we were in the Florida Everglades, although there were no alligators or humidity. But see the one, oh, there he goes, the one blue heron. For whatever reason, one blue heron has chosen to nest and feed with these snowy egrets, and whilst all of his brethren have already headed down south, he remains with the snowy egrets. So it's just been interesting to watch him all summer. Even in the early morning, he will still feed. When a little flock of snowy egrets feed on our beach in the morning, there'll be that one blue heron. So I'm assuming it's the same blue heron. But I think it'd make an interesting story about the blue heron who thought he was a snowy egret. And here you can see all these little tiny islands and peninsulas that are through our little causeways here. When we come through here at high tide, many of these will be completely underwater, and you can skirt your way across the top, and the lovely sound of the grass across the bow or the bottom of the boat, it's quite lovely. So depending on the tide, each trip through here can be very, very different. So though we kayak much of the same area, depending on high, low, middling tides, lunar tides, etc., we always get a different view, and we were not sad for the amount of snowy egrets we were able to see. And there are some lovely little cottages and homes stuck back here as well, amongst the trees and the little salt causeways. Some of the homes are quite large, and some are darling little Cape cottages. Now, another interesting little crustacean that lives along here is the grass shrimp. And you can see how tiny they are. And they're actually a very important part of the ecosystem here, as they eat algae and things, so they keep the water clear. But I always joke that they look like little baby lobsters. But they jump out at this tide over the boat. And as the last of the egrets begin to nest, we wind our way back towards home. But as I mentioned, the little grass shrimp, the tiny crustaceans that actually are really important to our ecology around here, at this time of tide and evening, the fish are really hunting them. So I can't help but laugh and marvel at how they jump out of the water as the fish are feeding. So I think I was able to get a bit more footage of them, but to see how they just jump and dance as the sun begins to set. Hope you enjoy that. And back home, we began to paddle. There's so much to see at this time of tide. As I said, the tide was just beginning to come back in, but once it starts coming back in, particularly on a full moon, it comes in pretty rapidly. So we were just sort of sitting and relaxing and enjoying the rest of this quiet bit before we work our way back to the channel opening back into our open harbor. We were going to have to paddle really hard against the current. But the last snowy egret of the day did not disappoint, as he and his chum took to wing and headed back home. And of course, hubby had filled his kayak with tonight's delicious crustacean dinner. And then back home on the beach, I keep my little green kayak down on the shore because I use it almost every day. But this heavier yellow kayak, which we take turns with, we usually store that in the boathouse. So hubby and my sister-in-law were happily carrying it up the steps, so I didn't have to. So they're just winding their way around the path I take where the old steps used to be to take it to the boathouse before we headed inside for our delicious meal. My sister-in-law doesn't keep her kayak here. She has a little inflatable one that she just puts in her car, which is quite nice. I've considered getting one, but they're rather pricey. But back inside after a busy day, we couldn't find our oyster shucker, so husband found that the flathead screwdriver worked just as well. Although we end up finding it after we had eaten them all, but see the delicious plate of the day's gettings. And though we do Tabasco sauce sometimes, we actually kind of prefer just a squeeze of fresh lemon and a bit of pepper, and then it's a delicious taste and slide down the throat, which I will spare you that part. But it was a lovely day out. We really enjoyed it, and I hope you enjoyed going with us for this low tide kayak. It was a great way to spend an afternoon, and it's sort of a wonderful way to kind of make the official end of summer for us when sister-in-law comes down to take her final photographs of the snowy egrets. So hope you enjoyed today's vlog, and please come back, and remember, stay creative. Cheers.